All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Chive podcast. Somehow we have another movie star joining us today. We have Dolph Lundgren. It's hard to intro you other than to say that you're an actor, you're a director, you're a Hollywood icon. You are also the man that helped make the greatest training montage in the history of film.
Rocky IV, hands down, everybody knows that is the best montage of all time.
But a lot of people, we wanted to start with a lot of people had questions about like how Dolph Lundgren was born. Like, how did you come into this world?
Why are you so talented? Is it true that you have the IQ of like 160, which is the same as Stephen Hawking?
It's
like people have you're like an urban legend. You're like a myth. Like nobody even knows what to make if this is fact or fiction.
Einstein had 100. Nikolai Tesla had 160 IQ.
But he wasn't an action star.
Not an action star.
So that's what it's like you are. But this is true. I mean, like some of this is true. How close are the people when they say all these things? Because there are all kinds of stories about you.
Well, I don't know about the IQ, but I did start as a chemical engineering student, and I had a Fulbright scholarship to MIT in Boston, and that's how I came over to America to study engineering, not to be an action star.
And you're in.
Well, you made the transition well.
Yeah, very fast. But for you're Stockholm, Sweden. What if us ignorant Americans, uncultured swine? What do we need to know about Stockholm? Is it a good place to live? Good place to.
Stockholm is a cool place. Yeah, it's small. It's about 1 million people. It's cold in the winter and very bright in the summer all day around. There's midnight sun there.
Oh, wow.
I studied engineering. My dad was an engineer, my older brother's an engineer, my other brother's an engineer. I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to America, and the only way I could afford it was to get scholarships,
Is that what, like, early on you realized if I want to get to America, I had better make my way through a scholarship, and that is my only way out?
Yeah.
But if you were a baseball player in Cuba and you're like, I need to make it, if I'm going to make any money, I need to be in the big leagues. I got to be the best baseball player. Like, you're like, I have to be this rocket scientist, get this, scholarship out of here.
Well, it was kind of like my dad was, he was, an engineer. He always wanted to go to MIT. That was his favorite school. And I guess I tried to impress him by getting a scholarship to MIT.
Yeah.
But, I'd done I used to play the drums. I used to paint and do other things when I was a kid, and also I was a martial artist on the side.
I love how nonchalant you say, I'm talented at everything, and I just know everything, and it's no big deal. But
I also did a little martial artist. I was at a championship level in 1980, 1981, and 1982.
The European Championships, 81, 82, and the Australian Championships. You are, and that started when you were Swedish military. When did you get into the martial arts and the karate?
Right before I came to America the first time. I came here after high school on a scholarship to Washington State. Cougars.
Yeah.
The Cougars. Over in Pullman, Washington. I was there for a year, and that's when I started doing Taekwondo and
why
boxing.
Did you want to get into that?
Because all the kids were playing ice hockey in Sweden, and I wanted to do something different and something that was tough and impress the chicks, whatever it was. And I started judo, and then that led to karate, and I realized I had a real good talent for martial arts, And I love the kind of spiritual aspect of it, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I was curious, I want to get into how you eventually found your way on a set and then found your way into film, but I'm curious just down the road, when you have all this training as a fighter, a martial artist, do you find it harder? Because when you have to do these, you have to stage fights for a movie and for the camera so everybody can see a punch thrown a certain way. Does that actually make it easier or harder with your training? Because you almost have to, it seems like you would almost have to unlearn some aspect of your training that says this is how you throw a punch and how you.
I react to it. When I hadn't done any stage combat or anything when I met Sly.
Yeah.
And immediately when I got right into Rocky IV, I got his 35-page script, which just said left, right cross, left hook, duck, the whole thing.
It sounds like a
15
video game.
rounds.
Yeah.
So I had to memorize that. I still remember.
That's how it works? They actually have written down the punches and the.
Well, he did, but that's the only time I've seen that. But he was just very meticulous.
Of course.
And it was a bit difficult in the beginning because you can get close, but you can't get too close. So.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he wanted me to get close to his face, but he's my boss. I can't hit him, so I was like, I was torn in between there a little bit.
Well, yeah, we'll get back to that. So
we want to talk about you getting into Hollywood, and I always, someone moves to Hollywood and they have an idea that maybe they're going to go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Start walking down the sidewalk. Marty Scorsese's going to come along and say, "That's my guy.
That's my guy.
This is the guy."
Yeah.
Now that actually never happens, and in a way, it did happen to you. It started out with you were dating one of the most beautiful women in the world, Grace Jones. She was doing.
She did a lot of. She was a lot of times like a villain. You remember her from the Bond movies.
A View to a Kill.
And it sounds like you're on the set with her as her, I guess, bodyguard or boyfriend or both at the time.
Both, I guess.
Really. And
How old are you?
I was about 24 at the time.
How tall are you?
Oh, how tall am I now? 6'4", I guess.
So you're 6'4", 24. You're from Sweden. You're a golden god on the set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People would notice you.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I mean,
notice
like,
me, yeah.
and
like Roger Moore said, Dolph is larger than Denmark.
So is this true that there's someone who's supposed to be on set for A View to Kill? And during a scene, I believe with Christopher Walken, he's a no-show. And the director, I guess, looks around and is like, you there. Hey, you look like you could be a villain. Would you mind stepping in for this? We'll see how it goes. Like, how do you remember this moment and how it sort of played out?
Yeah, it was in Paris at the there was a big horse racing event outside of Paris called I'm trying to remember it's a big castle there. I'll think of it in a moment. Anyway, and there's a horse racing track, and that's where Chris Walken was doing his scene, and Grace is in it, and there's a guy missing, like you said, somebody didn't show up.
Yeah.
One of the stunt guys, and he just pointed at me and said, "You want to be in the scene with Chris Walken?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know. What do I do?" He says, "It's easy. You stand here, point a gun at Christopher Walken, and that's it." So I did it, but it was done in 2 minutes, so basically.
How was Christopher Walken? Do you remember just being on set with him? He's just this iconic figure.
Yeah, it was Castle of Chantilly was the name. Yeah, he was Chantilly. The funny thing is with Chris, he was. I was watching him because I'd started studying acting a little bit in New York, so
yeah.
I had a little bit of kind of an idea of it, and I was watching him rehearse with this British actor who plays a Russian general. He's been in a bunch of Bond movies in the 70s and 80s, and so he rehearses with him. And then, of course, on the first take, he does it the exact opposite way. So this guy jumped like 3 seats back, and it was so cool. I remember that. And that's the take they used in the film.
Just because
he surprised
he
the
comes
guy.
to life the minute the camera flicks on, for real. He's now a total different animal.
Totally different. So he kept it in during rehearsal, which is kind of interesting. I kind of picked that up. And then I met him actually again just a few months ago, and at a film festival in Barcelona, and it was kind of fun. I hadn't seen him for many years. We were talking about those days. It was fun.
Jesus.
God, I want to meet Christopher Walken at a film festival in Barcelona.
Yeah.
I don't do stuff like that.
I just want him to be my uncle. He just seems like he'd be like, that's the man with every story who's seen everything. Yeah. And we don't know where he's coming from today, but it's going to be wild and hilarious as always.
This brings us to 1985. This is a pivotal year for you. Because you made the jump into movie stardom in a way that nobody saw coming. But we want, if you'd humor us, to give the backstory on how you came to audition for Rocky IV.
And there were so many. It went to like 5,000 people trying to vie for that part. There were headshots, and everybody's trying to be the guy.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I was in New York, and this was after the little thing I did in the Bond picture, and I got a bunch of calls for different movies, sort of like they call casting calls, and one was a boxing movie. I didn't know what it was, but it was boxing, and I was a martial artist, so I figured I'd stand in line with another 200 guys. And I got to the front of the line after an hour, and there's a girl sitting at a table, and she just goes, "How tall are you?" And I'm like 6'4". She says, "Too tall, next." And I was like, wait a second. But I looked behind her, and there was a small little sheet of paper where it said, "Casting for Rocky IV." It just like typed out there, and I thought, because I loved Rocky III, Mr. T and all that. I used to watch that
was so
movie,
fun.
when I was fighting.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, Rocky IV, I gotta give this a shot. So I took some stills with me in boxing gear, and for my last money, I was working as a bouncer at the time in Manhattan.
That's right.
A couple of clubs there, and I sent them off through my acting coach, who said that he knew somebody who once had met Sly Stallone or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like a long shot. But so about 6 months later, I was in Europe with Grace. I think it was actually during the filming of. Yeah, it was during the filming of the Bond picture, and some kid calls me like out of breath. Oh, thank God I found you. I've been looking for you for months. Because I guess the still shots got to Sly, but he, they didn't know who I was or how to get hold of me. I didn't have an agent or anything.
Yeah.
So finally they flew.
Wait, you just sent the still shots with no contact?
Well, I think I put my name on there, but.
It's not like your Twitter handle.
There is no Twitter in those days, man.
Yeah,
there was like a payphone on the corner where I lived,
I'll meet you.
I didn't have a mobile phone. No, it was a payphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a phone.
That's awesome. You left, dude. I love the
I'll be there at 3
simplicity
p.m.
of
2 weeks from now.
The 80s, where it was just like, I don't know, where's a phone we can get?
Yeah, it's like exactly. Yeah, we meet there 3 p.m. 2 weeks from now. And if you don't show up, we'll meet next year. Anyway, they finally flew me to LA, and then I remember I was in a taxi, and I was driving. I was going up towards Paramount Pictures, because Sly had an office there, and I went through the gates, and there was a Hollywood sign in the background, and I said, this is interesting,
Yeah.
And then I met Stallone, and he was doing Rambo 2. The one when he goes to Vietnam.
Yeah.
He was kind of ripped.
He was so cut. That was like the most cut.
Had long hair and very, very tanned. And, he was really nice to me. And we went in his office. We took some Polaroids, because in those days those Polaroids together.
Yeah.
Without our shirts on. I had those, but I lost them. It was funny because, we both looked kind of thin, because there's like a weird lens or something. But he did show me all... on his office rolls, all these binders in those days, like with pictures. So, hey, you have 5,000 guys up for the roll, So it's like you got to put on some weight. So you got to put on 10 pounds of muscle and all of this. So then he gave me like a monologue to practice, which they used in a trailer. My name is Drago, fighter from the Soviet Union. I fight the old champion. And it goes like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and... then I had to go to New York and train, and then 6 months later there was a screen test, and I came to LA and stayed in some cheap hotel here. They put me up there, and I remember I was on a strict diet, so I was scared. I was going to have maybe like a half a grape for breakfast or something, because I didn't, I wanted to get as ripped as I could. Yeah. I knew it was going to be shirtless.
And then do 2 days, and then you have 3 grapes at the end of the day.
Three grapes as a celebration.
Sliced.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I remember coming in the elevator to go to breakfast, and the door's open, and there's a 6'5" blonde guy looking at me, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then I go down for breakfast. There's another guy, blonde, tall.
Oh,
it's
damn.
like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So there was actually 3 of us. But when it came to the actual screen test, which was at MGM, they had this dolly track, camera coming kind of toward my mark when I was going to stand there in boxing trunks and, no shirt and deliver the monologue. And, behind, it was on a sound stage there, and behind the camera there was about 50 people. It was Sly, his bodyguards, a bunch of guys in suits, other people are just watching. So I was like, I realized, okay, shit, here we go.
Yeah.
This is it, right? So the other guys, I was last, so they did it kind of like a Russian Mr. T. I will kill you, I will tear you apart.
Yeah.
But, I decided I was going to do it very cold and kind of detached,
That was
like without moving at all.
Yeah.
And I'd seen these pictures of Russian cadets, and they kept their chin very high like this. They have this kind of head posture that I kind of emanated, there's a character. I kind of picked that up, and
but that's that coldness when he says, if he dies, he dies.
Less is less is more.
You're right. It's absolutely early. Pacino in The Godfather, he said, I thought they were going to fire me. Al Pacino was like, I thought they were going to fire me half the film because I was trying to show less is more. I was trying to show that you don't know this guy's background or who he is really until you see what he's capable of. And then by the end, you see he's capable of so much.
Yeah.
But he thought the Hollywood studios kept wanting to fire him because they're like, what is this guy? What he's giving us? We don't know. And it was genius. It was so brilliant. And
I don't know if I'm Al Pacino, but it was. But I also heard an idea. I heard something about Burt Lancaster too in his first picture called The Killers, which is he was in with Ava Gardner. They're both their first picture, and he didn't do anything, and they were going to fire him too until the Rushes came in.
Yeah.
And said, "Wow, that guy is interesting," Wow, and they kept him, and rest is history.
I guess the rest is history. You have one of my favorite quotes. You said, "I walked into a Westwood movie theater as Grace Jones's boyfriend, and I walked out 90 minutes later as the movie star Dolph Lundgren." Your life literally changed from going from a bouncer to, I guess, Grace Jones's boyfriend to walking in. Was it at the Bruin Theater in Westwood?
It was at the Westwood.
Man?
Not the Man, the other one. Not the Marquee. Is it the Marquee or the Westwood?
There's the Bruin.
It's the other one that has the kind of spire on top.
Yeah, it's now called the Bruin. I don't know what it used to be called.
Yeah.
It may have had a different name.
Westwood Bruin, maybe. That's
How do you walk into something like that? Did you realize the gravity of the moment at the time?
I didn't because because Grace was in the Bond picture, and I went to the premiere. It was in San Francisco, and Duran were there, and it was like crazy, and he still told me he just told me, the rocket. This is nothing next to a rocket picture. Wait till you see all of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I still didn't understand because in those days you did your ADR, you went in there and did your sound kind of post sync sound, and you saw like this shitty black and white, version of the movie. So I really thought, wow, all that work for this, it's not going to work. And then I walked into the theater, to the premiere, and there was, like I said, the photographers kind of wanted me to get out of the way so they can get pictures of Grace. So get out of the way. Come on, big guy. Let's step back. And we got in there, and I remember the film opened, and it opens with these two gloves, like the Russian and American gloves.
Colliding.
They explode, right?
Yeah.
And then I was kind of just stuck there staring at the screen, I think with the rest of the audience, because it was quite a good picture. Sly did a great job.
It stands the test of time.
Yeah, it does. And, at the end, when the lights came up, everybody's kind of looking at me. I was like, oh, what the hell? And then outside, it was the same thing, yeah. And it took, it was one of those moments where it was overnight, stardom kind of thing. And it took me years to get over it, actually.
I was going to say, and even the way
tough.
Your friends and family and the world is sort of process you sort of a different way. They see you in a different light, and you have to, in a moment, internalize all these changes, and it happens so fast. There's no training for something like that.
There's also this thing that when the first time the world, if you want to put it that way, the world sees an actor on screen, whether it's Arnold in Conan or Sly as Rocky, the first time has a certain impact that is very tough to offset. So people think that Stallone is Rocky, especially abroad. Hey, Rocky, sign this thing. Hey, Rocky, over here with my kids, And it's the same for me. Drago has been like a really, really powerful image that, for better or worse, it's there. And, and I think it's kind of great that it was that, that it changed my life. But also, like I said, you can do another 10 movies and, if it's Arnold and Conan and Terminator, those are the defining moments.
And to bring that defining moment into present day, Bob had a question for you that was relevant to today's society. I think that we really wanted to ask you.
You're just thinking it's a strange time. There's a lot going on, politics, a lot of uneasy. Tensions are running high. I was wondering if you, with the U.S. and the Russian relations. Say you were Ivan Drago, all right? Mm-hmm. What would you say to our incoming president-elect to bridge the divide between nations? Do you got anything chambered for something like that?
I must break you. No, sorry, that's what I should not say. No, well, I think, there is that speech Sly has at the end of that movie when he says, better two guys killing each other than 20 million or whatever it is. You know,
Yeah.
if you can change, I can change. The world can change. I think it's about understanding, and I think that I played a few other Russians in a couple of times in movies, and if you think about it, the Russians, the Americans, I mean, they're similar in many ways. They've always been allies. They never fought a war against each other.
Yeah.
Like we fought wars against Germany and
Right.
England and places like that. But it's only because there's another powerful guy on the block, and you're always like kind of staring each other down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think the peoples as such, they kind of have an admiration for. I know the Russians admire America, and I think there's some cool things about Russia too.
Yeah.
Like the Second World War and all the sacrifices they've made. So
Unbelievable.
I think it's going to end up. I look at it in a positive way anyway.
I was gonna segue a little bit to Expendables, but I thought it was an interesting segue. Is the fact that Sylvester liked you after you almost killed him, and this is documented. It's well documented. He was in intensive care after he's your boss at the time, and he says, sort of method acting, like, "Hey, just hit me, like really hit me."
You almost killed Sylvester Stallone.
Go ahead, hit me. No, it's like, he wanted me, went hard to the body. And, I was a fighter at the time. I was a European heavyweight champion. So
Yeah.
did have a pretty good punch. And I guess, and he was a little overworked. And I guess one of them slipped in there, and he had some kind of bruising to his heart muscle. I didn't know. And we got back from Vancouver, where we shot the final fight. We shot that in Vancouver, and the producer called me and said, "Dolph, you got 2 weeks off." And I'm like, "Well, that's great." And what happened was Sly's in the hospital. So, oh shit. So,
Are you kidding me?
no, that's what happened.
This is your first big movie, your big break. You've almost killed the action star. Are you I would have been terrified. Like, are you serious? He better pull through, or else this is it.
I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know I'd hurt him, but I only obeyed his instructions as a director and producer and my boss. So but it all ended well. We're friends. So.
Really quick, and I do want to get to Expendables.
He did hit me too, though. I got to tell you, I got hit in the face a few times, but I didn't say anything.
Did he get your back?
I didn't say anything. He hit a lot harder than Jet Li.
Yeah, they were less caring of your hits. This is a random aside before we talk a little Expendables, but you did one of your there was Showdown Little Tokyo with Brandon Lee. To this day, I think the way Heath Ledger was about to be the biggest actor on the planet with the Joker and died, and with The Crow, Brandon Lee, and you got to work with him. Like, that was his first film, I think. Like, do you remember him as a person? Did you get any interesting time or just stories with him? And I've got his dad's Bruce Lee, for God's sakes. He has to have stories.
Yeah, I didn't know his dad was Bruce Lee. I just knew I was doing a film with Warner Brothers with some kid named Brandon Lee.
Oh, my God.
And Lee is like a common name.
Yeah,
but then we went to the gym the first time, and I was with my karate instructor at the time. He was a British guy, and he was with his instructor, who is a local. I'm trying to remember his name now. Anyway, and we trained a little bit, and then I realized, dude, holy shit, his dad's Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And my instructor, Brian Fitkin is his name. He just says what he feels. We were doing some sparring and working in front of the mirror, and then Brandon asks Brian, "What do you think?" And he says, "Well, I think you should stick to your kicks. Your punches are a bit weak, or something." And Brandon was really upset with that. But he was the nicest guy, I mean, we had a great time together, and his mom is half Swedish, Linda Lee.
Really?
So Bruce, so he was actually half Swedish, half Chinese. He'd been to Sweden, and so we had a lot in common. And I remember that I went to his birthday. I think it was his 31st birthday or something like that. And he was doing The Crow.
Yeah.
And he was going to be a huge star, I think, as big as Bruce,
I mean,
maybe
that movie
bigger
blew
even.
up.
And
Absolutely.
then I got a call, maybe a month later or something, and producer of one of my movies said, "Did you hear the news?" I'm like, "No." He says, "Brandon, got killed on the set by blank, somehow."
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but. And the sad thing was that, Bruce Lee died at 32 or something. He died at 29 or around the same age. It was
These
kind of
unforeseen,
weird.
strange circumstances.
It's Crow's one of our favorite movies.
Absolutely.
And very few people
Still
have,
the best
have any
soundtrack.
stories
Yeah.
about Brandon Lee.
No, he was a very, very cool guy.
Well, Well, basically, I just, the last thing I think we have to bring up, the Expendables. By the way, are you filming the fourth already? Have you filmed it already?
No, we haven't shot it. I think it's coming up
It's got to be
next year.
fun. Like these.
How did this start? This wonderful franchise. I watched everyone in the theater. I'm like, and I go by myself because I want to be left alone.
Yeah.
I would get my large popcorn,
Yeah.
my Diet Coke. I'm gonna sit there
Yep.
and enjoy every second
Yeah.
of this chapter of your all's lives that you're bringing to us.
Soaking up like nostalgia.
It is the best.
Yeah.
Like what you guys have done with that is really interesting. How did you first hear about it? How did it come about?
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, it's another Stallone sort of miracle. He's done 3 of these. Obviously, Rocky came out of his head, and then Rambo. And then, this idea of doing another Dirty Dozen or one of those, kind of group action pictures like they used to do in the 60s a lot and 70s.
Yeah.
I heard it from my agent. He said, Stallone's got a script. And I was like, really? I thought it was some kind of boxing thing, but
Yeah, right.
no. He called him, then Sly called me and said, check it out, see what you think. So I read it, like page 3, Gunnar Jensen, Scandinavian, drunk, carries a big knife, murderous. I'm like, okay, I guess that's my character. Yeah. So by then I think Statham was on board and Jet Li was on his way. And then, I immediately read the script and I loved it. Because Sly has this great sense of humor. It's kind of unusual. He has this kind of offbeat but very funny and commercial sense of humor, especially with the action stuff, And I thought it was a brilliant idea. And then, when I walked on the set the first time was in New Orleans. And, I hadn't seen him on a film set for, it was about 30 years, I think.
Oh, my
it was in 1985, 95. It was 2010. So what was that? 25 years later.
Goodness.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
25
Back
years
on set
later,
was the
back on
last
set. And we were like, it was cool because he was really excited to see me too. And we kind of hugged. And
I see. Is it it's got to be fun just on that set with these guys. You got everybody from Schwarzenegger, Statham, Jet Li, Jean-Claude, Terry Crews.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone. Who's the prankster? That's what I want to know.
like,
Every set has a prankster.
Yeah.
Prankster. I don't know, man. I don't know. Who's the prankster? I mean, Sly is a bit of a prankster. Arnold is always, kind of loud and makes funny comments about everybody with a cigar in one hand. And, I got along very well with the fighters, with Randy Couture and Terry Crews, the athletes. I hung with them a lot.
Right.
And also Snipes, I like him. He's cool because he's a martial artist too.
Dude Blade, yes.
And then there's Jean-Claude, of course, who I know from all the Universal Soldier pictures.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Chuck Norris, who's also a martial artist, who is a great guy, very, very friendly and very nice to everybody. And so we talked because of martial arts quite a bit. So there's all of these kind of common threads that I have with a lot of those guys. So it's a pure pleasure working on those movies.
I can imagine because my circle of friends resembles it's like 2 tech developers.
Yeah, right.
Bob,
No
you're
fun.
5'4".
No talented people.
His brother doesn't talk much.
Yeah,
let's
right.
face it.
No.
And I got a dog.
Yeah,
Okay. And nothing. There's no glitz about that. You've just described to us a circle of friends that is surface of the sun heat. Do you ever sit back and think like, well, all of us together, of course, this is going to be another hit, but how much fun is this?
Yeah.
What life is this, Dolph?
Well, I did. Yeah, there was especially one occasion where we shot in Bulgaria for the second one, and it was kind of cold, and we were doing the scene where everybody's firing at, I think it was Jean-Claude who's the bad guy in that one. And we were going to fire at this truck, and everybody's there, and we're all getting geared up, and there's a little tent, like they have the heaters in there, and it's about the size of this room, a little bigger. And, I get there a little bit early, then Sly shows up because he's talking to the producer, then, Arnold, and, Bruce Willis, then you got Chuck Norris, and then it starts getting a bit weird, because it's like Jet Li, Statham, everybody's looking around like, is this really happening? What the hell?
It's normally just me and a bunch of people I don't know, but I know all these people.
What is about to happen with everybody in the room? You're about to kill Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, so everybody's getting geared
all
up.
these movie stars are getting together.
Yeah.
Is Jean-Claude left out a little bit?
Well,
is he getting the cold shoulder?
I don't know if he was in there. I can't remember seeing him in there, but I don't think he was there. It was a double we were shooting at that night, that day. But it was, No, it's just bizarre because most of these guys are used to being in their own picture,
That's
maybe
what I
with
mean.
one co-star,
Yeah.
like Arnold and Sly in one movie,
Yeah.
Escape Plan or something. But here you got like 10 guys, and it's like Mel Gibson was there too.
Yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
You got like
But it was
Harrison
kind of
Ford,
nice.
yeah, Bruce Willis.
You have to
like,
pinch
it's
yourself,
insane.
going, well, wow, this is real, and I'm in it, and I'm kind of pleased to be in it. You know?
Is there secretly amongst you guys a toughest action star? Is it you? It's got to be you, right?
Because you're the actual guy,
fighter.
and you train constantly. We all know. I've seen you at Gold's Gym in Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, there are a few tough guys. Like Terry is tough. Randy is really tough.
Chuck
Randy
Norris
is a
in his
tough
heyday.
fight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess I was the real thing. I mean, I used to fight, and I mean, there's always. But when you look at everybody and you size them up, there's somebody who's more successful than you, bigger than you, richer than you. You know, I mean, there's always something. So we don't look at it that way. It's more like you're just kind of pleased to be part of the gang. You know.
That's such a good. It's so good to hear.
Yeah.
That the big movie stars tend to have some ego, and I like the way you've kind of checked yours at the doorstep. And I think when everyone else does that, it works. The other thing that you're talking about that works that strikes me is that everybody's good at something, and that brings the element of authenticity to the Expendables. Which, whenever something is authentic, I think that that it resonates with people.
Yes.
The collective consciousness of America gravitates towards something authentic. And I think
agree.
that's why it's been so successful. But it's cool I can't wait to get my Diet Coke and my large popcorn and sit down for the next one. Can you say anything about it?
Well, I'll come with you because I usually like to watch it too. Well, not at a premiere. I like to watch it by myself
the
with
premieres.
my friend, my
That seems
girlfriend, or
stressful.
something.
I never would want to watch it in front of people.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard much. I know it. I guess the Chinese love this franchise, and they've put some money into it, from what I heard. And it's going to have something maybe to do with Asia, a little more than the other pictures. I don't know in the maybe shooting there, or maybe who knows, maybe Jackie Chan.
I was just saying,
somebody,
saying Jackie Chan.
Yeah, let's
call
throw
him
it
up
out there.
Well, I just happen to have his number here, Dolph. 1 sec. Let me just put that up. And by the way, just parting thoughts about fitness has always been such a huge part of your life, and it seems like even early on you were a little bit shyer. It sounds like fitness and martial arts and all these things have just been a huge part of your life. I mean, you're still working out, I don't know, 6 times a day. You look fantastic. And you wrote even a book about it. I wrote, it's down here somewhere, but you have your own book about, what does fitness mean to you, and what do you think people can sort of learn from it or take from the discipline of just keeping yourself in check and always pushing yourself, I guess?
Martial arts and fitness was part of my life before I got in the film business, and it was because it was the way I created my identity and as a young man, and gave myself confidence and a way to sort of step out in the world from a little country of Sweden to come over here and try to become an actor, an action star, whatever have you. And since then, of course, it was part of getting that role in Rocky IV, and since then it's been part of my life. And even if I wasn't an actor, and even if I didn't do action movies, I'd always be training, because it's just a way to alleviate stress, a way to stay young, a way to kind of stay in touch with yourself, and a way to just kind of sort of rise above the sort of mundane problems that we sometimes get into in our lives. We worry about small things, but when you go to the gym and you train yourself, you kind of can rise above that. And I think
you still
it's
train
important.
6 days a week, though.
Well, it varies depending on how much I travel, between 3 and 5-6 days a week, something like that.
Yeah.
It depends, but I try to pretty much every day I'm doing something.
It's so hard to fix yourself from the inside out. I think, training and being in shape, you work from the outside in. It's a lot easier sometimes to give yourself a little confidence, a little ego boost, and just feel better about your own life, with just training. And besides, meditation is hard as shit. I tried it.
Meditation,
it's hard.
yeah. That's my new thing, meditation. Yeah.
I've tried it. It's like impossible. I zero in on my thoughts, and then I'm freaking out even more. I can't do that thing.
But it comes with age, I think, a little bit.
Maybe.
I started only about 3-4 years ago, and now I do by an hour every morning, before I do anything else. it's just a great way to relax and get rid of a lot of negativity.
You actually, so you can pull it off.
More or less.
Is
Yeah.
it you think as much? You don't try to run from your thoughts. You try
No,
to, like,
you have
absorb
embrace.
it.
You have to
embrace
everything that goes on,
And just what is what I'm
and
feeling.
until it goes away. You know, if you name it, it goes away. That's the thing. Once you name, if you're scared of something, once you really embrace that, then it tends to go away, like just like a puff of smoke. You know, so.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
I just, this is.
I mean, and Bob, that's good for you too, because
I'm high-strung.
He's neurotic.
Yeah.
So I think
I need this.
I am too.
good for him.
Yeah.
We wanted to, and one of the things that we wanted to get you in here for was we had an agenda for you that you didn't know about, and that is that we kind of wanted to. We wanted to animate your life in about 3.5 to 4 minutes.
Oh shit!
And I think, because I think you've lived this amazing life that has so many rich chapters, that I think bringing that to life, not only for you to have.
Thank you. No, it's
but
great.
But to carry that thread through, and that's what I preface this podcast with. 'Cause we're not quite as dumb as you think, but
No.
I think I can't wait for you to see what we've got in store for you.
Thank you, man.
And you guys will be able to click on it and see how someone who comes with a dream from Stockholm, Sweden, can make it all the way not only to movie stardom, but to have these unbelievably rich chapters within that keep your career going. And I think if you talk to any actor, they'll just say, like, I just like working, man. And to have had this sort of longevity is a testament to your commitment to not just to your craft, but to your fitness and everything. So I think you're going to like what we have in store for you. The last thing we have in store for you is how we close every single show.
This is the same 3 questions for everybody.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to catch a plane, so we don't get to do it. So I was like, we have time, we're good.
Oh,
but it's called the Post-Apocalyptic Question.
Okay.
So I just want to get you in the mindset is basically, this is perfect for you. So
Post-apocalyptic,
a world befallen some sort of horrific tragedy and somehow left you as the lone man standing. In this scenario, most times I don't believe it, but I really believe that you could be the last man standing.
I thought that was Will Smith, isn't it?
Yeah, but that movie wasn't my favorite, so he doesn't get to take all the glory.
Okay.
Forget him. No.
All right.
So, lonely, dire, not the happiest of places. And the first question, I would say, the lob softball is, if you happen to have one movie on DVD only for the rest of your days, which movie would you choose to watch?
God. Well, let's see. It would have to be something you can rediscover, and that always has a new. Well, it would be either. I think The Godfather, maybe. First of all, it's long, so it's about 3 hours.
That's good.
That's good.
You got to fill time.
Good actors, little action.
Yeah.
I think I would take that, I suppose. Okay, that's off the top of my head.
No, that's a fantastic. I'm counting. That's the answer. It's perfect.
It is.
All right, second one is a little bit of a silly one, but it is. Let's just say there happens to be one other woman on the planet, and now it's your job to repopulate the world. Who is a perfect prototypical woman? She could be whoever you want. I mean, it could be a cartoon for all I care, but it's just, who is someone you think she's smart, she's good brain, she's strong. This is like a good stock of kid
Could be anyone throughout time as well.
Yeah. So I mean,
okay.
I don't want to put you on the spot. So I know.
We're taking Serena Williams off the table. She's been mentioned too many times. Yeah.
She is perfect genetic storm. I mean.
Okay, let me think. Well, you got to go with your guts, right? The first one that came to mind was Dr. No, Ursula Andress on the beach there with a bikini. I don't know if she was that smart, but who cares, right?
It's about you. This is your fan. This is your dream. Oh, that's the best. Now I'm picturing her prancing on the beach. This is perfect. Third and I'm so happy. But that's a really good answer, by the way.
Thanks.
Third and final question. Assuming in your solitude, you're starting to drift a little bit into madness, and you start to hallucinate having a conversation, and it can be with one person. Again, throughout time, anybody you've ever wanted to talk to, you've always wanted to just have a conversation with and sit down and shoot the shit with. Who would that person be?
Oh gosh. Well, it would have to be somebody who knows a lot about everything. trying to think here. Well, there are a few there.
I was going to be like Nikola Tesla. You was going to be like, were you as smart as me? Or yeah, like,
well, it could be somebody like Leonardo da Vinci, maybe, if he could speak English, or if I speak
There's a
Italian, because
translator,
you know.
Yeah.
What musician would it be?
Musician. Oh shit.
And now I'm thinking of a drummer. Yeah,
Drummer, yeah. Who was the guy who drank 40 shots of vodka before? John Bonham? Yeah. Hey, man. Him. Okay, that's the guy.
It's gotta be Bonham.
perfect one.
Oh man, I even went to the Regent Beverly Wilshire the other day to ask the concierge if it was true that John Bonham was not allowed in the Regent Beverly Wilshire, and then he said, "Okay, I'll be right back." Went, bought a tent wherever you buy a tent from in Beverly Hills, and pitched it right in the middle of the rotunda in the Regent Beverly Wilshire.
Wait, what do you do?
Because we're staying nearby, and the
shit.
concierge is like, "I can tell you that is absolutely true."
Wow.
Dude, it's a different life. This has been enchanting. This has been so much fun.
Thanks,
for
man.
I hope for us it's been fun. And for you, you're probably like, God, here we go again.
No. It's great to. I mean, first of all, it's been a lot of fun. You guys are fun and smart and cool, and I really appreciate your overall strategy for this, because I didn't expect it. I was a little worried about how I can sum up my life in like 2 minutes, but but I really appreciate that, and in my position, things just in my life, things have just happened for a reason. I guess I didn't plan it; it just happened, and I think part of the beautiful thing for me is that I get to sort of make other people feel good, with my work, and that's kind of how it pays back, what I've been through,
Not
so
everybody
it's a
has
mutual
a job
thing,
that is so fulfilling to everybody that you entertain and make happy, and who savor all these memories. That
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like a lot of your success stems from the fact you've just made yourself available for life. And there's something to be said about that.
I just want to really quickly mention, you recently did this Prizio, if I'm saying that right, Prizio raffle, and it was dedicated to raising money for the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, and to assist persons trafficked for all the purpose of forced labor and slavery-like practices, and to work toward ending all instances of such human rights violation. It's an incredibly powerful cause. That's a mouthful I just said, but I mean, feel free to talk to it or point any directions where people can learn more about it, but that's one of the worst things imaginable. Like, I can't even begin to think of a world where that exists, where someone could be kidnapped and used for God knows.
It happens everywhere in here in America, and just in this town as well. And I made a film called Skin Trade, and that was about human trafficking. And I experienced a lot of things researching that picture, and we shot in Thailand mostly. And then I came back here and I said, I got to do something to help out. And then I started working with these guys at Cast, and they're here, based in LA. And I did this auction where people can buy at lunch with me, or they can buy, going down to the sheriff's, firing range and fast speed kind of track there, and do something with them, and go to the gym with me, and then, so it's like I'm trying to help these guys out, because it's a great cause, really.
And Chivers, you can click on that link. It's the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking.
CAST.
The acronym, is CAST. And you can click on that through our website and find out more about Dolph's Prizio campaign. And Prizio's doing a lot of great things these days. So do check out their website. It's an amazing place, founded by some amazing people in Dallas. So Dolph Lundgren, I couldn't thank you enough. Yeah. I think a lot of people, one of the things we knew coming in was a lot of people who aren't Americans listen to this podcast, who tune into the Chive, and I think that you've helped inspire a lot of people who may not have been born here in the same way Arnold might to live the American dream. And hats off for you to coming in. I think it means more to a lot of people than you might even think.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Chivers. You can join us every Thursday on the Chive Podcast at Podcast One. That's podcastone.com. You can secretly download it for free every Wednesday night around noon, or whenever Javi gets around to not being drunk and uploading it. So thanks for Chivers for making this the hit that it is, and we appreciate it. We'll keep doing it as long as you keep listening. Take care.
Now about that roundhouse kick.
That's the secret.